All right, hey VC, how you doing? My name is Jamie, and happy Family Day to you and yours in Canada. Well, just about to everybody in Canada. Family Day is celebrated on the third Monday in February. It's a holiday where you spend time with your family and that sort of thing. So it is celebrated in Ontario, also in New Brunswick, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia. Now in Manitoba, they celebrate it as Louis Riel Day. In Nova Scotia, this is Nova Scotia Heritage Day, and then in PEI, it's known as Islander Day. So there you have it. It's not celebrated in Quebec or Newfoundland and Labrador. But just about everybody else, most is celebrated as Family Day. A few provinces celebrate it as something other. So again, happy Family Day to you and yours, or whatever you like to call it, on this day. So I thought I'd feature some recent vinyl finds. I don't really have enough, family groups to feature on vinyl, so I thought I'd just take a look at some recent vinyl finds. And I'm going to kick it off with this reissue of The Clash, London Calling. And this is reissued on We Are Vinyl, their third album, double album. What can you say? Absolute classic. Kicking it off with London Calling, this iconic cover that certainly the lettering replicates Elvis Presley's first LP. And so, yeah, no gatefold on this, and this does have a download card. And I can show you the vinyl. They have all the lyrics here on the liner. There. And there. And then that and that. And then here, and if you certainly know the original issue of this album, they've done a nice job at replicating the fact that Train in Vain on the initial copies was not included as a track listing. That's the last track on the album. It would be the last track on side 4, and they don't even include the lyrics here, but it is included as it was on the original album. The song Train in Vain is track 5, side 4. Don't know if you can see that properly there. But kind of nice that they didn't include it like they did on the original sort of thing. But usually on all subsequent issues, including even often the CD issues, they would just simply include Train in Vain as the 19th track. There you go. Okay, so The Clash, London Calling. Moving right along, we've got The Who, Face Dances. I think it was on my last video I took a look at The Who, It's Hard. This is certainly a much better album. This came out before It's Hard, the first one with Kenny Jones. And yeah, You Better You Bet. Great way to kick off the album. And it's got some nice tracks like Don't Let Go the Coat, The Quiet One. Yeah, overall a good album. Quite the cover. And record fans from the Toronto area will remember Peter Dunn's Vinyl Museum, which was one of the popular record spots in Toronto. Alright, so I got that, and that, and then on the classic Warner Brothers label. Okay. A little bit of Canadian content for you. We got Platinum Blondes, Standing in the Dark. This came out in 1983, a power pop at its finest. A little bit more rockin' than you may remember. Features the hit Doesn't Really Matter and Standing in the Dark. And this was reissued fairly recently. It wasn't on the last Record Store Day, but I think it was the one before that. And I remember I was pleasantly surprised how many people were actually picking this up, despite the fact that you can often find this certainly in the used bins for a fairly decent price. But a lot of people were picking up the reissue. And this one's got the inner sleeve. It plays well, but the inner sleeves certainly got some markings on the inner sleeve, which is not great. But overall, it plays well. On Columbia label, and the track Doesn't Really Matter on the LP version kicks off with the woman saying, "If you're resting comfortably, we can begin," and then they kick it off. They often cut that from the single version, but that is reportedly Mark Holmes' mother who does that line. Just a little bit of trivia for you. Okay, moving right along, band I'm certainly enjoying Molly Hatchet, and this is Beating the Odds, and I didn't realize that this painting dates back to 1967, this painting or drawing, but this is great, continued great Southern rock. Just love these covers, too, for this band. All right, and of course on the Epic label. All right, there you go. And moving right along, seem to be running into a number of Supertramp albums, which is always a good thing. This is Supertramp's Crisis What Crisis. The jacket for this is a little worn. You can see certainly some ringwear there, but it's at least certainly a fairly early pressing because it's got the yellow sleeve of the shirt with the yellow inside. And I think subsequent reissues they would include the lyrics and everything like that. And then on, of course, A&M. But yeah, another great Supertramp album. Quite the cover, too. Okay, and another band that I seem to be running into a lot is the Tubes. A band I can never quite figure out in terms of the Tubes. They're kind of a post-punk band, kind of new wavy, but then at the same time they really kind of want to be a pop band at the same time with Fee Waybill. Now this is certainly a theme album that takes a look at the effects obviously of television. They have tracks like Turn Me On, TV is King, Primetime, Teleside. And this album is produced by Todd Rundgren, so it's got a nice kind of polish overall. And then they on the Hollywood Squares, and I think subsequently a few of the band members would actually then appear on Hollywood Squares. But if you like the Tubes, it's another solid Tubes album, and then on A&M Records. And then, speaking of Todd Rundgren, I can't remember if I've shown this one or not. Picked up Utopia's Swing to the Right. Now this is replicating the Beatles burning records that was held particularly in the South in the mid-60s when John Lennon made some very unpopular at the time comments comparing the Beatles to Jesus or the Beatles to God, that sort of thing. Didn't go over well, so they were actually burning of Beatle records. And so this is a picture of that, but then they, of course, superimposed this picture within this picture of this which is actually an album cover, that sort of thing, but it's the picture within a picture sort of thing. And then this definitely deals with, swing to the right themes of like Fahrenheit 451, that sort of thing, for the love of money. And initially Bearsville was not too happy. They thought this was a little bit too of a political album, Bearsville, the label. And I guess Todd Rundgren and Utopia did tour the album before releasing it, playing it in concert, encouraging people to get in touch with Bearsville and say, hey, they got to release this album. It's great music, to which Bearsville did. But it's kind of one of those things. I mean, it's got a nice, again, it's Todd Rundgren Utopia, so it's got a nice, production value, and the lyrics don't jump out at you. It's interesting sometimes when record labels get so worked up about things. This came out in 1982. Canadian pressing, and on the Bearsville label. Okay, so there's that. Picked this one up, Genesis, their 1983 album, simply titled Genesis. And overall, a good album. Mama you've heard a million times, but Home by the Sea / Second Home by the Sea, which generally they just call Home by the Sea, is still a great track. That's All's Good. It's going to get better. Illegal Alien I could kind of do without. Taking It All Too Hard, it's kind of another Phil Collins kind of ballad. But overall, a good album and hugely popular. Back in the day. And this does have the original sleeve. And you kind of forget how strange a track Mama was, certainly when it came out. So there you go. And I think we got time for one more. More Gordon Lightfoot. Gordon Lightfoot's Endless Wire that came out in 1978. This one has kind of a slightly different sound for Gordon Lightfoot, particularly the title track, Endless Wire. Kind of a bit more slightly rocking for Gordon Lightfoot, if you will. I mean, it kicks off with A Day Like Katie, which is pretty much in the sort of folk tradition, along with tracks like Sweet Guinevere. But then you got Hand Dog Hotel Room, which kind of kicks things up a little bit. And Endless Wire is kind of a nice kind of pop, kind of slightly rockin', again, rockin' for Gordon Lightfoot, that sort of thing. And then he also redoes The Circle is Small on this one. But yeah, decent album overall. I've always really enjoyed this one. And he's in, fine form, fine voice in this. And of course, the Warner label. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this one. And again, happy Family Day to you and yours, or whatever you like to call it on this day. And certainly hope you take care and have a good one. And we'll chat again real soon. And if you can, hit subscribe, hit like, and that bell notification thing too. And always leave a comment. Always enjoy chatting with you. Take care. Bye-bye.